guys, and welcome back to another Mystery Monday video on my channel. Just quickly, I want to address the fact that there was no videos last week. That was just simply because I haven't been feeling too good. I think in the last video that I uploaded, I did mention that I have a cold, and it just kind of progressively got worse, and I'm still not feeling 100%, so if you can hear it in my voice, it's because I'm sick. But I did want to make sure to get at least one video up for you guys this week. And today's case is one that I find extremely interesting. It really captivated my attention as soon as I came across it. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video, and let's get right on with the case. Oakey Kite was born on May 7th, 1951 in Nash County, North Carolina. He had a younger sister named Barbara, and the two remained very close throughout Oakey's entire life. They just had a really normal brother-sister relationship, although they did live in two completely different states. Throughout Oakey's adult life, he moved around a lot, living all over the entire United States, as well as some places outside of the United States. But when he finally decided that he wanted to buy a forever home and settle down, he did decide to move to Denver, Colorado, specifically in the Aurora area. Now, the reason that he decided to move to Colorado is because he was an avid outdoorsman. He loved skiing, hiking, fishing, all things that were outdoorsy, and as most of you probably know, Colorado has a beautiful outside kind of atmosphere. After deciding to settle down, Oakey decided to buy a home there for himself, and the house that he bought was a 3-story townhouse. Now, after moving in, he decided that this home was actually too big for just himself, so he decided to start renting out the basement, and he had no trouble finding tenants, and a young couple moved into the basement of his home. At this time, Oakey Kite was working at a local Denver consulting firm called Carter Douglas. Now, Oakey was really good at what he did. He had a really good reputation in his workplace, and he really enjoyed being a consultant. Shortly after moving to Colorado, Oakey began to date a woman by the name of Linda. And after living there for a short period of time, his tenants actually decided to move out, which meant that his basement was vacant and he needed to start looking for a new tenant. And that was in May of 2004. So that is when Oakey began to put up ads searching for new tenants for his basement. And on May 19th, 2004, he was contacted by a man going by the name of Robert Cooper. Now, Robert Cooper said that he would do anything to move into Oakey's basement immediately. He was going to pay first and last month's rent, as well as giving a security deposit, and he was ready to move in as soon as possible. It is believed that immediately after contacting Oakey through email or by a phone call or however he did contact him, this man then immediately came over to Oakey's home. Now, I don't think this is too odd. The man did probably want to see the basement where he would be living, and at this time, Linda was also in the home. She said that she never spoke to this man and she didn't really see much of him, but she did get a glance of him while she crossed his path to use the washroom. And she immediately said, after coming into contact with this man, that he crossed her as very odd because it seemed to her that he didn't want her to see his face. Once Linda was in the washroom, Robert Cooper then gave Oakey some lame excuse to leave the home. And Linda did get a better look at this man through the bathroom window while he was walking away from the house. She said that he appeared to be in his mid-40s. He stood at about 5'6", looked like he weighed about 180 pounds, was really well dressed, and walked with a limp, and he used a cane to assist with his walking. After Oakey had this meeting with Robert Cooper, it was then decided that Robert Cooper would be moving into the home the following week. On May 22nd, 2004, Linda would be traveling elsewhere. I'm not sure if it was for business or for pleasure or what the reasoning was, but she would be traveling out of the state, so Oakey had driven her to the airport. And after he dropped her off and she got on her flight and landed to wherever it was that she was going, she called Oakey at 3 p.m. just to let him know that she had landed and she was safe and everything was going well. When she spoke to him on the phone at this time, she said that Oakey seemed in good spirits. He was talking about how he was rearranging things in the basement for the new tenant, and he just seemed overall in a very good mood. The two talked for a while before getting off the phone, and that would be the last time that anybody would hear from Oakey Kite. On May 24th, 2004, when Oakey Kite didn't show up for work, red flags were raised immediately. Like I mentioned earlier, Oakey was really responsible in his job, and he rarely, if ever, missed a day of work, and if he was going to be late or miss the day, he always called ahead. So this immediately worried his colleagues, and they began to call his home and his cell phone multiple times, but he never answered. After calling Oakey a bunch of times and getting no answer, they decided to call his emergency contact number, which was his sister Barbara, who, like I mentioned before, lived in a completely different state. After Barbara began to call her brother multiple times and didn't get an answer, she decided to phone the police and ask them to do a welfare check. The police arrived at Oakey's home, and after knocking on the door multiple times and not getting an answer and not seeing any kind of movement inside the home, they decided to allow themselves access into Oakey Kite's home. And upon first entering, nothing really seemed to be out of the ordinary. That was until they had entered the basement, and that is where they found the body of 51-year-old Oakey Kite lying face down at the bottom of the basement stairs. It was obvious upon first glance that this was in fact a murder, and there was blood spattering absolutely everything surrounding Oakey's body. And the officers who had originally arrived on the scene had even said that this was the worst thing that they had seen in their entire careers. A wound on the back of Oakey Kite's head suggested that he was knocked over the head with something while he was walking down the stairs. He was then hog-tied and brutally tortured for hours, and he had a total of 22 stab wounds. The autopsy also showed that he had actually passed away just hours after getting off the phone with Linda on the day of May 22nd, 2004. But after thoroughly investigating the home, it was unclear to investigators how the killer actually gained access inside the house. It appeared that after Oakey Kite was murdered, the killer then went into the kitchen and cooked himself a meal and ate it at Oakey Kite's table. He then proceeded to go upstairs, have a shower, put on some of Oakey's clothing, have a sleep in Oakey's bed, and then got up in the early mornings of May 23rd and left the house. Now, this was confirmed because a neighbor actually saw a strange man leaving Oakey Kite's home in the early morning hours of May 23rd. The killer had also cleaned the crime scene extremely well, putting at least 6 to 12 knives along with a pen, Oakey's car keys, a drinking glass, and a dish sponge in the kitchen sink and soaking it in Clorox bleach. He also cleaned all of the surfaces for fingerprints and dumped bleach down the shower drain so that they weren't able to get any of his DNA by searching the drain after he had had a shower. Police then began to look for a motive as to why this happened, originally thinking that this was a crime of passion due to the brutality of the scene. But they couldn't find anybody in Oakey Kite's life who would have wanted him to die, especially not in this manner. They then started to look at the possibility that this could have been some kind of elaborate robbery, but the strange thing about that was that when they arrived at the scene, the only two things that could be found missing from Oakey's home was his vehicle and his cell phone. And Oakey did have a few other valuable items within his home, so that kind of got rid of the question as to robbery being the motive. His vehicle was actually discovered the exact same day as his body, parked just a few blocks away from his home. Now at this point in the case, I'm going to be switching between the evidence that was found within Oakey Kite's home as well as the evidence that was found within his vehicle. Inside of the vehicle, they found a receipt for an ATM machine that was just parked down the road. Now, the police went to this ATM machine and pulled the camera footage from the machine, but the killer was wearing a ski mask and only a very, very small part of his face could be seen, and it wasn't enough to identify him. They also were going to pull fingerprints from the machine, but the killer was wearing gloves, which made pulling DNA completely impossible. It was confirmed that the debit card that was used at this ATM machine by the killer did belong to Oakey. But due to the fact that the killer had only taken out $1,000 flat, helped police be able to rule out again robbery as the motive in this case, because Oakey Kite had a lot more money in his account than just that. It is also believed that after the killer went to the ATM machine, he then drove the car to the street where he had parked it and where it had been discovered that day. He then got out of the car and walked back to Oakey Kite's house and put the keys in the sink and soaked them in bleach with all of the other items that he had touched. Now back to what was discovered within the home. They did find trace amounts of DNA that they do believe belonged to the killer inside of Oakey's home. They also found a discarded or rental tenant form in the trash can in the kitchen, and this would have had all of the killer's information on it. It had the future tenant's address, their full name, their social security number, their phone number, just all of that kind of information, and it was discarded in the kitchen trash can. The name that was left on this paper was Robert Cooper, which of course is believed to be a fake name. The address that was written on this form also was fake, and it ended up leading police to a building that was located on the Colorado Medical School campus. And the social security number belonged to a woman that is completely unrelated to this case. The number that was found on this form actually belonged to an active burner phone. Now, the police were able to track both this burner phone as well as Oakey Kite's phone, and were able to determine that it was moving through the Denver area. Now, when they traced down these two phones, they found them kind of like abandoned in a very popular homeless area. And it is believed that the killer abandoned these phones in that area, knowing that somebody would come along, pick up these phones, move them around, and that it would ultimately not lead police to this man. Investigators were able to find out that the burner phone had actually been purchased at a convenience store that was very close to the Colorado Medical School. And the number that was linked to this phone actually had been written on multiple tenant applications for houses that were looking for residents to rent out. That being said, after speaking to some of Oakey's loved ones and the people who he was closest with, police were able to determine that on the day that he had passed away, he was talking about moving a reclining chair from the upper level in his home to the basement for this new tenant. And that is where police came to the conclusion that maybe Oakey was helping this future tenant move stuff into the basement when he struck Oakey Kite in the head very unsuspectedly. It was also determined that this man, going by the name of Robert Cooper, had inquired about multiple rental properties in the days leading up to Oakey Kite's murder. At least 4 different renters came forward to investigators after this case had been made public, saying that they had an encounter with this man, but everybody who encountered this man described him as having different characteristics. A local professor was renting out her property when she showed it to a man who was going by the name of Robert Cooper, but she said that this man did not have a cane or a limp and that he did have a very distinctive and thick Romanian accent. The witness who came forward in that situation said that this man appeared to be in his late 30s, whereas other witnesses claimed that he appeared to be in his late 50s. This man was said to speak with an accent from literally all over the globe, where others said that he didn't speak at all. Some said that he spoke in a very quiet American accent. Some people said he had a limp, some people said he used a cane, some people said he walked completely normally. This man was just a master of disguise, and everybody who encountered him said something different about his appearance and the way that he spoke, the way that he walked, the way that he looked, just everything like that. Around the time that Robert Cooper had responded to Oakey's ad, a woman came forward saying that she showed her rental property to a man by the name of Robert Cooper. She said that this experience was very strange to her and stood out from the minute that she met him. She said the man didn't really speak much and that he really examined all of the exits to her home, all of her windows and the doors, and that this experience just ultimately gave her a really creepy, unsettling feeling. On May 19, 2004, a neighbor came forward as a witness and said that he had witnessed a man fitting Robert Cooper's description leaving Oakey Kite's home on that day. So this confirmed to police that this was the first day that Oakey Kite had met the man going by the name of Robert Cooper. Over the next 2 days, 2 of Oakey's neighbors came forward saying to police that they had a weird experience with a man fitting Robert Cooper's description. One of these witnesses was a man who said that he had tried to speak to Robert Cooper but had been completely ignored, where the second witness was a woman who had been walking on a trail near Oakey's home when she had witnessed this man, and he appeared to look completely right through her. Police had tried to link this man to the Colorado Medical School due to the fact that the phone was purchased very close to the campus. The address that he had written on his tenant application was the address of a building that was on this campus, and one of the rental properties that this man had gone to see was actually only advertised on the school's campus. It is believed that this man targeted Oakey Kite because of how kind he was, but also because he lived alone. And it is now suspected that this man just killed Oakey Kite because he just simply wanted to kill somebody. And it is believed that he could have possibly killed before. It is believed that the killer may have been from the East Coast, possibly New Jersey area. It is also believed that he could have worked in a banking industry, had connections to the Colorado Medical School, likely dressed professionally on a regular basis, may or may not have had a female relative such as a sister or mother living in the area, and it is believed that at one point or another he wanted to be a police officer. Oakey Kite's remains were released to his loved ones and flown back to his home in Halifax, North Carolina, where a funeral was held for him on June 2nd, 2004. Although there isn't too much speculation going around in this case, just because it does seem pretty evident that this Robert Cooper character is responsible for the death of Oakey Kite, there still is 3 main theories as to why this man could have possibly wanted to murder Oakey. First theory is maybe this killer had some kind of connection to Oakey Kite's work. Oakey was the head director for a lot of big projects, working in the engineering kind of industry and firm, so it is believed by some people that maybe his murder had some link to that. The second theory is that the killer had some kind of relation to the real estate market, obviously due to the fact that Oakey Kite had just put the basement of his home up for rent, and this man had went to see multiple houses that were up for rent on the websites and stuff like that. He just went to see a lot of rental properties within a short period of time. So some people believe that this had something to do with that. And the third theory is that this killer was some kind of contract killer or a serial killer who just wanted to practice. I'm not sure exactly what theory I lean more towards in this case, but I do think that this one's really creepy and bizarre because a lot of people encountered this man, but he still has never been caught. My heart sincerely goes out to the loved ones of Oakey Kite. I really hope that one day they can get some closure, and I hope that whoever was responsible for his death is caught very, very soon. Guys, that brings us to the end of this video. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to comment down below what you'd like to see in my future videos, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys!